building. We believe that we are accommodating the intent of the ordinance with providing larger buffers out towards US 41 and to the south, in addition with the wetlands that are there. So we have lots of landscaping, lots of buffer around the building itself. One of the other variances that we're seeking is a 5-foot high screen wall is required between a commercial property and a residential property. In the second page of the graphics, we've pulled a couple of sections through the site, both north and south through the site. With these, you can see how high the building is sitting up there, which is providing for the drainage down to the detention pond and the wetlands. I have noted a 5-foot high wall in there, and with the distance from the building to the residential property of 830-ish feet, in there, the 5-foot high wall really isn't going to do us any benefit. And to put that wall actually on the property line to the south, we'd be in the wetlands for quite a bit of that. So we'd have to do some remediation to try to build that wall there, and I'm sure the residents
What did
is.
you say before you said the wetlands? I missed that for a minute. What did you say in regards to the 5
If we were to move that wall to the south property line, like right up against the residential property line, we'd be in the wetlands somewhat. That wetlands does cross over our property line to the south. So we'd have to do some remediation with those wetlands to make that happen.
Is that the actual property line of the wetlands, or is that indicating like the 100-year flood? 'Cause there's two different things.
There are two in there, and I do not recall exactly where the wetlands and the floodplain are, which one's which.
This is why when I asked last meeting to provide actual blueprints, you guys did not do so. This is just a vague sketch. Sorry, this is just a vague sketch. I'm a PE, just so you know.
Okay.
By training, so.
We have submitted all of those drawings as part of the would we just get approval on through the
Plan Commission.
Plan Commission? Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, all of those documents are there.
For the Plan Commission, yes.
For the Plan Commission.
So I pulled the GIS over. Here's your wetlands for you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now.
And then there's your floodplain.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, like I say, our intent was not to get into any of those, not to affect those as part of the construction.
But you still could move the wall farther south without impacting those zones from where you have it placed on your sketch on the second page.
Yes,
So you do have room to move it further south.
we could
without
move it
impacting
further
those
south.
wetlands.
I just showed the
So,
representation that
You
it's
could move it further away from the building without impacting those
correct,
wetlands,
correct.
right.
I was only implying if we moved it to the property line.
So really, moving it further south, there is no reason to remove the wall because it's not gonna impact the wetlands or restrict your property lines, really.
Correct, but the sketch was just indicating that 5-foot high wall, in this grand scheme of things, isn't going to provide any screening for those south properties.
Just by eliminating the wall, it's just gonna eliminate costs of overall construction is basically what you're trying to do.
Exactly, yeah,
I get it.
yeah. And a wall that's not providing any benefit, for the intent of the ordinance. It's an
In your
intent.
guys' eyes, but we don't know what the residents think about that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Right.
How much are you raising the grade of where the building's going?
Actually, we're not raising the grade, we're actually lowering the grade, trying to bring the building down a little bit, using that dirt for some other areas to try to bring the parking up a little bit to make it more level so it meets code.
Yeah, they'd
Because
have to
because
bring-
it does slope down so
They
much.
have to bring city elevation down in order to do a building pad large enough
Yeah,
in parking lot, so, and then they'd probably have to use some of that material they're cutting from the building pad to build up the parking lots
correct.
without having to potentially stabilize and whatnot. Which, being that close to the wetlands, are probably still gonna have to stabilize.
so as you raise the level, isn't that gonna
We're,
push
we're-
the water?
No, they're
not
cutting
raising-
it down,
he's-
they're cutting it
yeah.
down, Joe.
I thought they said it was.
They're gonna balance the site basically to meet certain elevations.
think of the site as a big hill. We're going to take the top down and bring some of those lower areas up so the parking is more level and so the parking is not at at a steep slope. So a building comes down, the top of the hill comes down, and then the parking comes up, so it becomes a little more flat. Yeah.
So then, as you're raising that part, the water runoff has gotta go somewhere.
He's not raising
And that's the
anything.
reason for the detention
bringing the-
But the
pond.
parking lot, that's what I'm talking about. He's saying that, maybe I'm reading this wrong here. You're saying that you're raising
Joe,
the parking
anything,
lot.
nothing they're asking to do today is affecting any drainage whatsoever. That's not what they're.
No, I'm asking, but, you know, not bad to ask. Just I thought,
May I approach?
Sure.
It's not the right question for the application.
Well.
I got a question. So,
hold on for a second. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so the intent was, this is the high point of the site right now.
Right.
To cut that down, we'll take the parking and bring the parking up a little bit, so that, you take one and we just shift the two,
Okay.
like this. We have the drainage, the detention area is over here, that we're catching all of that water running off, to buffer that water before it gets released out into the stormwater system.
All right.
all right, the planning areas. So you say you want to make it for easier access, correct?
Yes.
How is it restricting access? You're still going to have walkways between the planting areas, correct?
Yes.
So how is it really restricting?
They're, because the walkways are there and not the planting beds. We have a drive coming up to the front that will allow for queuing of cars, for dropping off patients at the front. There'll be a walk immediately adjacent to the building. There are some landscape areas in there, but if you see directly to the west of that drop-off aisle at the front of the building, there's a landscape buffer in there, plus the landscape islands.
But
plus,
the purpose of those green areas, so it doesn't look like a concrete highway.
Yeah.
I know, like Franciscan and Munster, for instance, there's portions of that building that look like a concrete highway because there was green spaces eliminated.
And we're trying to indicate on the on the document there, to the south of the entry, we've got 10 feet of buffer in there. To the north, excuse me, of the main entry, we have 12 feet 6 inches of landscaped area in there. To the north of the building, there's 33 feet. To the south, we have another drive that's running along there, and there's roughly 17 feet, 18 feet of landscaped area to the south of that drive. As you mentioned, then in addition, out in front, between US 41 and the parking area, there's an additional 152 plus or minus feet of landscaped area out there.
Yeah, but that landscaped area is pond, mostly pond area.
It
For
is.
retention, which is going to be filled with wetland plugs and stuff like that, which,
Yep. Then we have
Not appealing.
the landscape along 41, the landscape along the parking lot.
and
at both
it'll
those
fill with
locations, yes.
Phragmites eventually, as we know. That pond will fill with Phragmites eventually, as we know, and it's not appealing. It's not going to look like the rest of the green
The
space.
intent is for that to be a dry detention
Right,
pond.
but you
not-
can't really
not
use
a-
that
not a
retention
wet
pond as,
Yeah.
yeah.
They
It's
are
gonna look
they're,
like a
they're
pond
required and
filled
they are what they are, yeah, unfortunately.
But for, what's that? Yeah, I get it. It's gonna look, they wanna eliminate these, it's gonna look like concrete highway. Just my opinion. Right. Yeah. I see it, they're doing it in the Munster currently.
Yeah, the concern is just with patient traffic. If we push that out and have a 25-foot buffer
And
in
it's
there,
for less maintenance.
it's a whole lot longer distance for those patients to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do hospitals for CHS, so I know too, it's also to eliminate maintenance. Okay. You guys got any questions?
Before you guys move on, I have one, it might be Jim or Maggie. I know, the plans have changed a little bit, what was gonna come in phase one, phase two. We had a couple calls and a couple concerns. In one of the phases, are we looking to have hospital beds where if there was, some type of emergency, maybe not in the beginning phases, but later on, was that, I know we had some talks about that.
Well, there's certainly not going to be any in the initial phase. There hasn't been any final determination made by Franciscan what will ultimately be in the additional phase or phases. The initial phase is just going to be urgent care, labs, diagnostics, medical offices, and that's it. then there'll be an assessment or a reassessment as to what they're going to do. I don't think, and I don't know, Maggie, maybe you can speak to that. I don't think there's any plan or intention to make it like a hospital setting or a hospital atmosphere where, for example, ambulances would be pulling in and coming in and bringing in patients. That's certainly not initially for sure the intent. And I don't know, Maggie, I don't think, yeah, that's correct.
The only way an ambulance would be coming in is if a patient needed to be transported out.
Right, right. Okay, thanks, Bob.
And that proposed 5-foot wall, that wall's only running east and west on that south adjacent end, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's only required between the commercial and residential properties.
It would only be against this.
So does that
green.
have to be south of the drive coming in off of 41, that wall, or does that only have to be closer to the building?
So it'd be, let me pull GIS back over.
Because technically, if you're eliminating the view from the commercial property, it should be south of that drive.
So
Correct.
it would be, what would it be, these properties here, the Watts Artisan property. So it would be at least 205 feet back from 41.
205 feet, you said?
Correct. Because this front parcel here is zoned commercial as well. So it would just be for this subdivision here. What's behind it is the railroad and unannexed.
Like I said, part of that wall would have to start south of that drive coming off of 41. Correct? In order to be 205 foot off of there, that wall would have to be in south of that drive. Coming in off of 41.
Yeah, it would probably be.
Right here.
Yes, correct. There's no way for that wall to start, they'd go across the drive, so that wall has to start south of that drive. So like I said, that sketch is a misrepresentation of where that wall's gonna go. Which that wall will also be a blockage from anyone, kids going into the wetlands, so on and so forth.
But I would also,
Create more of a physical barrier and a visual barrier, but yeah, that wall would have to start south of the main entrance coming in off of US 41.
but again, I would also suggest that the further south that wall gets, the lower down the slope that it gets and the less shielding of the building that it provides.
Yeah, excuse me, I'll just jump in real quick. I think,
But those
I think-
residents, sea level elevation for those residents, I mean, we'll just throw some numbers out there. Say your building is gonna sit at 685. I'd almost guarantee that those houses are sitting 20 to 15 foot. We could probably pull it up lower than what that building is. So actually, no, the houses looking up would look right at the wall and block the view of the house.
Well, and I've also provided on the first page, there's 2 photographs of views. There's one view from the proposed entry off of 41 towards the residences, and there's a Google Street View. And then there's another photograph taken from the property in to the site. And with all of the trees and growth and landscape that's in that wetlands that we're not touching, not going to affect,
Right?
you can barely see one house.
In the summer.
In the summertime,
But
yes.
not in the winter.
Depending on how much of those are evergreens or trees, and we haven't done a survey out there to confirm that.
could I say something?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Obviously, we're here not to want to put the wall in.
Right.
Okay? If you look at ordinances in any community around here, and you think about the intent of them, it's logical. Where you have residential close, nearby commercial, that it be screened, and be screened with a wall. Nobody's saying that. We're just simply saying the closest residence to this is over 800 feet away. And if you think about the intent of an ordinance, the ordinance was in a more condensed or town or city kind of atmosphere, and where they're really close together, yeah, you need that screening. We believe, and if you think we're wrong, but we believe that that isn't necessary, given the topography and also the fact that the nearest residence is over 800 feet away. And there's other screening involved in there. Admittedly, it's more screening in the summer than it is in the fall or the winter, but that's the reason for the request. And I just want to make sure everybody understood that we're not saying, well, yeah, we're going to put in a wall, whether it's on the south side or the north side or however many feet it is, and
A better sell, not to interrupt you, would have been a photo from those residences to the property to show what they're saying. You're showing what you're saying,
Well,
not what they're saying.
we've had-
And the purpose of the ordinance is to serve the taxpayers and in the best interest of the taxpayers. And right now, these views are in the best interest of the proposed hospital and the building, but not for a view in the best interest of the taxpayers.
I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. And that's always a problem when there's 3 or 4 boards that we have to go before, but it's the law, and we get it. The public appeared at Plan Commission meetings. The public offered no objection. The public had some questions. They asked some concerns. In the final analysis, there wasn't one remonstrator. They were fine with it. And, yeah, okay, maybe we should have gone over to somebody's house and see if they'd let us cross their property and take pictures. But the fact of the matter is, the public had an opportunity to speak several times at the Plan Commission and also at the Town Council. That was never an issue, nor were they ever concerned about that. They had some other concerns. They had some concerns about the wetlands and were we going to disturb them and things of that nature. And when we showed them the whole thing, they were fine. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. What about proposing some landscaping instead of a wall?
That's not bad.
Well, it wouldn't be bad if you have a landscape in there, because it doesn't
You know what I mean?
block the view from
Yeah.
traveling north. 'Cause that's what it would be, traveling in.
Besides the wall and the reduction in the planning areas, I don't have an issue with anything else. You
Right.
know what I mean? From
Yeah, I
my point of view, but the planning area, I'm not budging on that.
Well,
for-
in lieu
for my-
of the reduced planning area, if we included to do the landscaping as more foliage, like
Right,
perhaps.
I agree with that, yeah. What do you think,
Gil?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's
Arden?
sounds
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So Adam, so if we wanted to make a motion to approve this with an exception, if we were to approve to eliminate the wall and a reduction in the planting for them to have to landscape where the proposed wall was supposed to go, meaning whether it's arborvitaes or trees, so on and so forth, something that is gonna grow and block that view and be more, with certain spacing, no more than, 20-foot spacing, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, in considering any variance from the development standards, the BZA may impose reasonable conditions as part of any approval or consideration of that variance. So in my opinion, the Board of Zoning Appeals could make that a condition if it considers the waiver of the fence or an alternative to construction of a fence. I would also add that the public hearing has not been closed, and so before there's any
Right.
action taken by the BZA, we should let the public speak, and then the hearing should be closed before that time.
Why don't you open up the public comment, John?
Right. We're going to open it up to the public comment in regards to this facility. Did we have did anybody sign in to speak for or against? Yes, no.
Why don't you close?
Going, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Going once? Going twice? Public hearing's not closed. So now, it's up to you guys to, do you have any recommendations or any? What's your pleasure?
And Mr. Chair, I would also recommend that you take those,
That-
each of the requested variances individually rather than all at the same time, just to make a clear record of what's been approved or
Oh, wouldn't
not
you-
approved.
If you want to, so to take them all separately, STJMC 24-521, C1 is the planting equal to an area measuring 25 feet in depth. C2 is the area equal to 10 feet in depth against the side of the buildings. 24-516 E2F is the screening requirement. And 24-493A7 and 24-347B are both parking in the front yard setback on the US 41 highway and in a commercial zoning district.
You said 347B was parking?
Correct, that's for parking in the front yard setback in a C2 zoning. Whereas 493A7 is for the US 41 overlay.
Then we have to take each, council, do we have to, each one of them now we have to go through?
Yes, I recommend that you take each variance request and as a separately considered item. That is my recommendation.
Okay. So, I'll make a motion to approve a request in the reduction in the required planning area for the property around the building for STJMC 24-525 C1.
I second that.
All those,
We get to do the statement of facts for each one?
Yeah, if we can reference the findings, again, that would be appropriate. The findings that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Those are the findings for an approved variance from the development standards.
so that would be for each and every single one of them.
No, because we're gonna do a special exception, so. All right,
Go ahead, yes, a motion was put to order, go ahead.
Yeah, I
You
second.
seconded,
he seconded it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
All those against? None.
That one
Approved,
passed.
passed. Second one.
All right, to not install the screening wall on the south property line, I'm gonna make a motion to approve with the, how do you want me to word that, Adam?
In lieu of the screening wall required by ordinance to install a natural style barrier in the form of trees along the southern boundary.
With no more than 20-foot spacing on the trees. Minimum 20-foot spacing on those trees.
Or not to exceed.
Not to exceed a 20-foot
20 feet.
spacing on those trees.
Can we also suggest a combination of evergreen and deciduous?
Yes,
Just, I
yeah.
think that would help out the situation. What I add in.
I'm not gonna nitpick the,
No, yeah, that sounds good.
yeah, I'm not gonna nitpick that, I just,
Okay.
we don't want them spaced out 100 feet. you know?
Right, no, that's a good,
So, and I'll make a motion to approve.
I'd second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So
Approved.
approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. And that is for STJMC 24-516 E2F. Is that correct?
Yes.
All those in favor? I mean,
Aye.
okay,
Aye.
approved unanimously. Okay, the third one.
Okay.
Sprinkling system.
Allow for the,
I need one for 24-525C2, which is the other landscaping requirement.
For the parking.
That one is the reduction in landscaping along the side of the buildings.
What number was that again, Ashley?
That's 24-525C2. We did 24-525C1.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve STJMC 24-525C2 for the landscaping on the sides of the buildings.
Okay.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Approval of C2 will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property.
The last two would be for 493A7 and 347B. 493 is parking in the front in the US 41 overlay, and 347 is for C2 parking.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve STJMC 24-493A7.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Takes care of.
Approval of A7 will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. That the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. I'll also make a motion to approve 347B.
I second
All those in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Approval of STJMC 24-347B will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, and that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. All right. Take over for Joe.
Thank you. Okay.
That's it.
Let's move to,
Do you have something to say?
There was the sprinkling on the well.
That's what, the sprinkling system.
we did it, yes. Yeah.
Yep, they did all 5 of
They
them.
were all approved, the only thing was the exception of the trading off the landscape for the wall.
Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Item 5B is unable to be heard tonight. They did not send out their certified mails, therefore it is not properly noticed. The petitioner was notified this afternoon and advised not to show up tonight. You can move on to public hearing 5C.
Okay, we'll move on to 5C. 2024-2028 developmental variance from STJMC 24-91, STJMC 24-461, requesting to vary from the accessory structure size requirements to have a storage shed of 12 feet by 20 foot on an R1 zone lot located at 8661 Patterson Street, St. John, Indiana.
Hi.
Wanna
So we're
Your
requesting,
name and address, ma'am, please.
sure, my name is Joey, Joee, Lindmark, Lindmark, and I am at 8661 Patterson Street, St. John. We're requesting a variance for a storage shed. We are on an acre, and our neighbors are all on over an acre property. We have a 16 by 32 pool. And we have a riding lawnmower. So we're requesting the variance to be able to accommodate all of the necessary things to upkeep our property.
You already currently have a storage shed there, correct? Is that what
Correct.
I'm looking at?
Yes.
And are you looking to remove that one or just add another one?
No, we just want to keep it.
Oh, I see.
So, one of the ladies who helps me, lives at the property?
Yeah, so I own the property, and my aunt helps out. She's the one that mows the lawn, does everything. She also lives there. It was kind of a miscommunication. I got the permit, and she didn't realize that it was too big.
How much bigger is it than,
They can only be, I believe,
160.
160.
Yeah, they can only be 160. They applied for the permit. The permit got approved, stating they were going to do a 160 square foot shed, 10 by 16. And they stated that the shed sales company said, well, you can get a 10 by 20 for the same price. Do you want it? And they accepted it, not knowing that the 160 was the max.
Well, they have a pool, correct?
Yeah, it's 16
So-
by 32, so all of
And
the...
with a pool in the town, you can have up to 250 square foot, correct?
The pool is irrelevant. You get 250 square feet on every residential lot, provided not one is over 160. So 160 is the max, but there's an additional 90 available, pool or no pool.
Personally, I'd like to rewritten. I'd rather see one building that size than have multiple buildings on a piece of property. So, me personally, I think that needs to be changed in this town.
Different
So
story.
I don't have an issue with her keeping the shed. I'd rather see one building versus a bunch of buildings
Right.
scattered throughout a property because, you know what I mean?
Have we had a hearing from the public remonstrance?
No, we're
Well, you
just
gotta
talking.
open
Just
it.
Yeah,
okay.
you gotta open it to public hearing.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'll do it.
Okay, good.
Do you have anything else, man?
I do not.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna open it up to public hearing.
My name is George Gardner, and I live at 8711 Patterson, which is directly behind this house. And the only person who sees that shed is us, and we don't care. So give her a thumbs up.
It's all.
I'm Wanda Gardner. I also live at 8711 Patterson, and we don't have a problem with her shed being there, mostly because she lets us use her pool whenever we want.
Thank you, Wanda. Anybody else?
I do want to add something. Although she did close it early this year, but there's no ordinance against that, right?
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right, I'm gonna close public hearing.
Make a motion to approve the development of variance 2024-28 for the 200 square foot accessory structure at 8661 Patterson. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties using the property.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes. Unanimous. All right, we're gonna move on to D, 2024-30, developmental variance from STJMC 24-91 to request a waiver in the 100-foot minimum lot with to an 80-foot minimum lot width at the building setback line on a proposed two-lot subdivision located at 8877 Patterson Street, St. John, Indiana. Shepherd Joint Revocable Trust owner Ken Gambala in Crawl, Avonmarsh is
Gentlemen, I'm representing the Shepherd family, the trust. There's a father and a son that together own the property. The father is actually in his name. Just to give you a brief history of this property, it was originally platted in 1980 by the Plan Commission for 6 lots in there. There was actually 6 driveways coming out. They were going to be coming out onto Patterson Street. In 1992, the Shepherds bought it from the Schillings, and they then replatted it into a 1-lot subdivision. And then they had the one house in the back, as you see, back in the railroad tracks. It would be the east end of the property. The lumber yard is over on the other side of the property, the Schilling Lumber. So that's about where it's at, orientation-wise. There's numerous other properties around it. Peggy Estates, Bilski's property is that little corner there, down at the bottom, yeah, right there. When they did the original subdivision, they actually platted a private drive here. All of these lots are gonna come out this way. And then they platted a private drive to go around to the back to these two lots going to be back here. Well, when they did the 1 lot, they built the roadway like this, and with 1 house. The rest of it's undeveloped around here. They got carried away in the size of the pond. This property is mostly water. It's a nice pond, but it's mostly water. We're doing is we're going to the Planning Commission, and we're asking to make a 2-lot because Senior Shepherd lives in this house back here. He's retired, and he wants to stay here in this house. His son, who lives in Oregon now, is moving back here with his family and wants to build a house up here in the front, which would be driveway, but then would come out into this ingress easement, and it would be not any additional road cut. So you wouldn't really see much change. He wants to be able to maintain this rest of his property and take off a large amount of property off of this, his father's taxation and maintenance of the property. His son's going to maintain it. So that's just a thumbnail thing. I know that I'll go to the Planning Commission for all of this. The only thing that I'm here tonight for is that your ordinance requires 100 foot across the building line, which is here, it's a 40-foot setback line. And we're asking to reduce it to 80, which is allowed in the ordinance if you approve it. If we go to 100, we're cutting off a usable portion of getting access from the front of the lot to the back of the lot to lot 1 because of the water. So it's really going to be, if you're any yard equipment or anything to go from this lot to this lot, needs to go through here. Can't go that way because they don't own that. So we're asking for it just to reduce from 100 feet to 80 feet at this point. That's early. It's just a technicality in the ordinance that it has to be 100 foot at the building line. Nothing's changing. All the improvements are going to stay the same, other than maybe the additional house in the front, and the rest of the property is going to remain the same. As you can see, it's not injurious to the health, safety, and welfare, and it has no effect on the surrounding property owners. The driveway's there already. We're not changing any of that, and it does cause difficulty if it's enforced at 100 because it is a hardship on the lot 1 on trying to access the entire piece of property. So that's where we're at. Questions?
I don't have any questions, you guys?
It's really a beautiful piece of property. I have pictures.
I actually hung out on that property a lot when I was a kid growing up.
Just to
Is
show
it
you
Artis or Chris building this house?
Yeah, it's This is the existing drive. That's not changing the width. This is looking in from Patterson Street. So what we would be doing is imaginary line, theoretical line, building line would be cut to 80 feet from the 100 feet.
Which
across
son
that
is building
roadway.
this house, Chris or Artis?
I'm sorry, what?
Which son, Chris or Artis, is building this house?
This, you know Patterson Street.
Yeah.
That was the original road in this town, besides
Yeah.
93rd when Hat came in here.
I know.
Because that was all Chicago roads, so these properties are very old. I mean, that's when Hack was shipping his whiskey up to Chicago, because he was a distiller. He would have to actually come before you, because he'd need a special use permit.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's
Thank
open
you
up
very
the
much.
public
You
comment.
want this back, or, thank you,
That's
sir.
looking the other way, from the house out to the,
Very good.
Patterson Street.
All right, at this time, we'll open it up for public comment.
I just have one question. I live at 8820 Patterson Street. On that survey, can you tell me where they're putting that house?
Sir,
It'd be in the front.
Please state your name.
Oh, Scott Murphy, 8820 Patterson.
It'd be about in the center in the front. Behind the 40-foot building.
You're talking here?
Yeah, right. And there would be a driveway coming, you could have a driveway on the side of the house. Come on, so there would be any additional road cuts.
So he's gonna pull all the trees out of there.
I don't know if it's not gonna need that many, not putting a huge house into a house tower here. Right, and so, yeah, there would be some re-landscaping, we'll have to go before, once the subdivision is approved, the way we're looking at it.
Right.
Then we'll have to come into a site plan. Original ground, where some trees are probably, 100 years old, right? But if you're trying to keep them in that condition for one,
Yeah, because he already told me about that.
I didn't know where it was putting. Yeah, she has a well, frontage, ton of 100 people else.
that has no bearing on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
they need to come back to the.
Excuse me.
Gentlemen, you need to either come back and speak at the podium, or we need to end the public comment.
I think he asked me where the house was going.
I just was wanting to know where it was going
It's
on
about
the
in the
survey.
center, in the
So,
front,
That's all I needed to
behind
know.
the 40-foot building line.
Okay, I'm gonna close public comment at this time.
Sir.
I don't see any problem.
And gentlemen, all of this will have to go to the plan commission. I mean, the concept is, this is strictly the variance on the width of the building line.
All right, I make a motion to approve the development variance 2024-30, that approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property.
Could I ask a contingency be made upon approval by the Plan Commission for the two-lot subdivision?
I don't see a reason why, because they had approved it for a 6-lot subdivision previous.
It still just has to go through the actual process, be a technicality.
Okay, and how'd you phrase that?
For approval to be contingent upon Plan Commission approval of the two-lot subdivision.
All right, so the contingency is that approval would be contingent on the planning commission approval?
And I second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Yes.
And everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you,
motion
gentlemen.
passes unanimous. All right, we'll move on to 6, new and old business.
I've got nothing.
No?
No,
new and
sir.
old business? One last time, open anything up to public comment? Anybody have any public comment?